every question like it was a bat soup enema. But you know who really stole the show? Rand Paul.
But you didn't disclose your role in the discussions that preceded the writing of the paper. You did not disclose the author's original concerns. You did not reveal what you
Wow. I think we have a stalker in our graphic arts department. But if anyone knows who that is, tell her I'm definitely not the guy who keeps calling her and hanging up. But until she came along, we were there for one man, a doctor, chasing fame during a global pandemic, while lives were lost, businesses ruined, and the true origin of the virus covered up like a sore on Barbra Streisand's ass. It's the story of a lifetime, Pulitzer-worthy even, unless you're these douchebags.
The whole thing was an intentional circus.
Today's hearing was a kind of bizarre show trial.
This is an assault on science and scientists.
This is a show trial. This is Rand Paul deeply invested in this narrative that there was a conspiracy.
The Senate holding fiery and at times farcical hearings.
Watching Anthony Fauci before a congressional hearing taking the Fifth Amendment is just one of the most heartbreaking things I have seen in government in my lifetime.
It breaks my heart. I can't believe we're back here. I can't believe we're relitigating this.
Relitigating? This is the story that breaks your heart? What broke our hearts were parents getting arrested for taking their kids to playgrounds that were emptier than a WNBA game, or small businesses crushed by shutdowns while BLM rioters rampaged like it was Black Friday at Walmart. All because Fauci said a manageable virus was deadlier than sharing a motel room with Hunter Biden. Meanwhile, one dope blamed senators for demanding answers. You know the guy, he has beady hillbilly eyes and a wig that belongs on a Spanish bullfighter.
The Fauci thing, just sheer political theater. They shamed themselves. We Americans needed answers yesterday. What you're doing is you're staging nothing but a show trial. And
Great performance.
He didn't play along. It's an embarrassing performance. This guy swearing that and then you had other people, you know, what's the color of your tie? What's the color of the carpet? Okay. It was such a clown show.
He would know.
Yeah, he would know. This clown says that we wanted answers. The whole hearing featured a man who refused to give them. So why aren't these reporters actually seeking answers? They call themselves journalists, after all, fearless truth tellers. But that's it's a fairy tale, a romantic fantasy that's been with us since all the president's men. You know the story of journalists who broke Watergate. Remember the scandal so massive we compare everything to it and add the suffix gate to anything the media perceives as bad, like Russiagate, Deflategate, and when Kathy Griffith shows up, lock the gate. But reality is different. Watergate's bungled burglary was bad, but common in American politics. And the media's role in it, uncovering it, is a myth. No, Washington Post reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein did not single-handedly bring down a president. It was mostly police work. Key breakthroughs came from the FBI, the feds, Senate Watergate Committee, grand juries, and the courts. All the press did was turn a sketchy political practice into a national psychodrama that damaged the country as it created a fallacy that the media could be trusted to do big stories. No, they haven't done one since, nor did they even do that one. It's all fantasy, because when the real big stories break, they switch from Woodward to Bernstein to Laurel and Hardy. Think about it. The biggest political scandal of all time, a president in cognitive decline from day one, shielded by staffers, isolated from the press, unaware of what he's signing. Media missed that. The biggest moral scandal? How about gaslighting Americans into thinking you can chop off healthy body parts on kids? They missed that one too. The biggest domestic security scandal of all time, try an open border that let in murderous criminals and terrorists. Only Fox covered that, and we were mocked for it. And now the biggest health scandal. Government officials funding risky gain-of-function research on bat viruses at a lab whose methods, timing, location, and outcomes closely match the appearance of a novel virus that killed millions. Kind of makes Watergate look like that time I dozed off at work and drove that school bus off a cliff. But the media didn't just ignore those stories. They shut down anyone who brought them up. It's why they couldn't cover the hearings, because they'd have to cover themselves. Hell, Jake Tapper, Abby Phillips, Rachel Maddow, Joe Scarborough, David Muir, Lawrence O'Donnell, Chuck Todd, they all should have been sitting up there next to Fauci yesterday. Fact is, the media refuses to follow the facts because they always lead back to them. Let's welcome tonight's guests. Police call her a star because she has 5 points on her license. Outnumbered co-host Emily Campagno. He looks like that guy who leans against the car outside of high school. Comedian Jim Florentine. She's so skinny, people from third world countries send her food. New York Times bestselling author, Fox News contributor, and he's the only panelist with a 12,000-pound towing capability, former NWA world champion, host of the Planet Tyrus podcast host. All right. Emily, you are a lawyer, and I can barely contain my rage when Stephanie Rule says, why are we relitigating this? We're talking about something that caused 12 million deaths worldwide. We still don't know why they made the decisions they made, what they were covering up, but we don't want to relitigate that. Let's go do January 6th.
Their cure for everything became historically the biggest catastrophe ever. And we know that the left's identity is built on control, and that control exists through fear. So my opinion is that the reason that they can't go into this at all is because it would reveal to them that something that for those years that they fought over and protested over, rioted over, lied over, canceled over, was simply a sham. It would lead to the realization that the Wizard of Oz was in fact just an egomaniacal, tiny little, powerful, smug, surly man who refused to look, by the way, any senator in the eye when they were pointing out those million deaths in this country. And that's the saddest part, that the worse to the Dems than the million deaths, the hundreds of thousands of livelihoods lost and kids' lives destroyed, worse than all of that destruction is simply the realization that it was all a sham. And then with that, pulling that string means that it's also a sham. They like to say everything now. Their F word is conspiracy. And it used to mean something attached to tinfoil hats. Now it's just asking questions. Then it was daring to ask questions. Remember, the good doctor is the one that said democracy would be destroyed if we failed to roll out the vaccines and forced everyone to wear a mask. That was democracy, was everyone questioning the unilateral authoritative voice that he had, that every government followed. And those states that dared to say, not on my watch, and we are going to question it, they were canceled, they were mocked, and now it's been baked into their institution. So you are right. They will refuse ever to even look at the diary, and that's why their answers have to do with either shaming him or simply about the horrifying nature of the deaths itself. Because if they were even to go into the government encroachment, then they would point that finger right back at themselves and obliterate their identity.
All right. So, Jim, don't you wish you had the media to cover for you when you killed people?
Under the Fifth Amendment, he doesn't have to answer that question.
I plead the Fifth 111 times.
Yes.
First of all, it's amazing that he pleaded the Fifth over 100 times.
Yeah.
Like, if my ex-girlfriend hated talking as much as Fauci did, we'd still be together. But it's just amazing how they're just so complicit. Like, they're gaslighting the public, the media, with this. It's all in the diary. All the stuff is in there. Mm-hmm. And they're just pretending it didn't happen.
Yeah. What kind of guy has a diary, Jim?
It's true. It's true, but I mean, it's almost like the media's like, even though he said it came from the Wuhan lab, it might not have been that Wuhan lab. We don't know.
Yes. There's a whole chain of them down the block. By the way, I just want to point out one thing when stupid head Scarborough says, oh, he asked him what color his tie he had. He did that to show you that he was using the fifth for non-incriminating questions, which almost negates the whole point of using the fifth. If you're watching it, you're going like, wow, he's using the fifth on even questions that don't incriminate him. Therefore, it's kind of pointless. That was the point, I believe, Kat. Although I'm not a lawyer, though I often tell young ladies that at the bar. Can you think of a big, giant story the media has broken? Nick Shirley has broken one great story. That's one more than the media.
Yeah, well, the thing about this is it really is depressing for a million reasons, but one that maybe we haven't touched on in the past few minutes is it really just shows how divided we really are unnecessarily, at least in terms of the media, because this is something that screwed all of us.
Yeah.
There is not, to varying degrees, up to and including death for some people and losing family members and having them die alone and horrible things like that. Everyone to some level suffered for this. And we are now finding out what many of us have been suspecting for a while, that this was not based on the science the way that we were being told all the time that it was. And his words were being treated as gospel, as law, and his words were not just wrong, but they were lies. Mm-hmm. He knew they were wrong. That affected everyone. Everyone should be mad about that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter. If the more that you kind of bought into it, the more that you should be mad now rather than the opposite, I would think. Mm-hmm. I just don't see why we can't. We politicized a virus, which was pretty bad. And now that we're finding out we were all screwed, all of us were made fools out of and screwed, and we had things of consequences we all suffered. And we can't all be like, hey, what the
Yeah. It's, I go back to, I've said this enough, Tyrus, but can we just, we have to replace the media with something. Maybe it's AI, but there's absolutely, how can you have any credibility when every major story, they're either on the wrong side of it or enabled the bad stuff to happen?
Greg, they're not on the wrong side, they're on their side of it. This was a coup, and they used Fauci to push the agenda. They needed Trump out of office. They tried all the other stuff to do it. And then if they come back now and say we were wrong about Fauci, that means they have to admit that the Trump administration was right. Mm-hmm. They'd also have to admit that Operation Speed or whatever it was worked, that his plans worked, his things were working, and that they were part of the biggest lie and cover-up in the history of our country. So they're all in. They're thinking a little evil to get out a big evil. They are committed to him. It is religion to him. They're going to come on there, and Scarborough is one of the dumbest people ever. Yeah. And it's shocking because given the size of his head and the glasses he wears, you would think he would be smarter, but they are all in bed. They all profited from it. I guarantee if you go back and look at them, they weren't wearing masks at home because they knew what it was. Mm-hmm. But it was the greater good. And he had private meetings with governors and everybody in the blue states to make it look like everything the administration was doing was wrong, which was easy then to influence votes because people were like, Trump didn't handle the pandemic right. He was a bully. And look what all these people had to do. And so I remember even hearing people saying it like, well, no one survives a pandemic when they handle it the way that President Trump did. And that's what this is about. They don't give a damn about, and we've said it a million times, they cracked a few eggs, 1 million Americans. We had the death toll and thing, but those things were not up there for us to be aware. They were up for us to vote a different way. So that's why they're going to be this way. And they got a really good taste of what communism in America looks like. Government could tell American citizens what to do. They fell in line. We turned on each other, and it gave birth to what we have right now. The birth of socialism here, which is just communism.
All right.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.